Good morning. I thought we'd work on another couple hats today. I just want to get a few things started. So I am going to go ahead and work with this other color here. This is Hobby Lobby's. I love this yarn. It is Fireworks Show. It is a print. It's really pretty. I think it'll go with maybe one of the blues that I have over here to the side. But yeah, I just thought we would play a little and continue to work on things. I've had a couple of you ask how many rows I did for these hats. And let me get this row and next row up. And then I will discuss that a little bit further. Hats can be done in a lot of different sizes. And generally for the teen adult size, I do anywhere from 140 to 150 rows total, so that if you're using two colors, you might want to divide that out. So divide it in half. You know, like if you're doing 150 rows, you'd want to do 75 in one color and then another 75 in the next color. And that's the way that I work these, so that they can be reversible. Like this, the brim is folded up. If the child wanted to have all blue, and then with the print folded up, they could just turn it up inside out. This is the smaller one that I do. And this one I did 120 rows total, so 60 in one color and 60 in the other. This is the one that I'd done 144, so I did 72 in one color and 72 in the other. So, yeah, it just helps a little bit with getting it done a little bit nicer. I do have my adapter for the drill, and we'll just kind of get that going. I will tell you, I believe that this this adapter is actually for the Centro. It will go on to this. It does make things a lot faster if you're trying to do that. But as you can tell, it's noisy. So I'm going to take that off there because I'm not going to use that while we're talking. But I just wanted you to show you how that would work. And it does work well. Generally I do 3 or 4 or 5 rows before I would use the drill. If I were using the drill, I'm not going to today. This does build up our arm strength, so yay for any kind of little exercise we can get, right? But as you can see, it didn't take long, even by using the hand crank. Yeah, at first your arm does get a little tired, and it may take you a while to build up that strength. I do know that it was nothing after I'd done quite a few hats to just use that as a general rule all the way around. But yeah, that's how I have done these hats. And then the 120, I have been told a lot of people do 110 for the smaller age group. For children, anywhere from 3 to 6 years old, and then somewhere around 130-ish for the next age bracket, which is about 7 to 10, 11. And then generally after that, you use the teen, which is 140 to 150. And you can always do more or less. There is a hat that if you just do a certain amount, like say 70, the brim is going to actually roll up. You will need to finish the brim a little bit, and you can do that with crochet. You can pick up those stitches there and do that with crochet. I've seen a lot of people do that. That way it wouldn't curl up, but if you want it to curl up, there is a way to finish it off so that it kind of curls up on its own. I won't go into that today because I don't think that's why we're here, right? So, yeah, there's that. I hope that you guys are able to get a lot of the projects that you have been working on done. And it's allergy season for me. I was out doing a little bit of weed eating earlier, so that means the allergies are going haywire. And it affects my throat quite often, so there's that. I've been seeing a lot of outrage from a lot on the left about people who are Christians praying for the victims. And there's a part of me that goes, I understand you don't understand the power of prayer and what it does to calm our souls. And many times if we are praying for others, it helps bring a little bit of comfort, ease to those people's minds as they're dealing with these tragedies. But because you don't understand Christianity and the power of prayer, you're not going to get it. And you seem to think that this is all a gun issue. I don't. I think it's a mental health issue as well as a heart issue. So, I mean, if you've looked at the manifesto and the videos of this fella, can we say he was probably had a demon possession in him? So, yeah. Any of you nurses or anybody who has dealt with psychiatric patients, you're probably very aware that many men and women that come into a psychiatric facility talk about the demons that they hear in their heads, and they male and female demons. So, and I witnessed this myself many times. And yes, I believe they are truly real. But the amazing thing that I found over the couple of years that I did rotation in psychiatric, it's the amount of males and females that would come into the units that had some kind of crisis that brought them in. And they would talk about the male-female demons, and they did name them by name. I will not name them by name. But many of these patients didn't know each other. There were years in between some of them, months in between them, but they gave the same names. So And some of these, if you are really looking at your grandchildren's games that they play, are named in the games. There's quite a few that I feel that are dangerous, that as grandparents and parents we need to be aware of. Like I said, I had a friend who was telling me about a game that her kids used to play. She used to think that it was fairly innocuous, that it was no big deal. Get a sip of that coffee, help that throat issue. And the game was called Goat. And she always thought it was just a game about these goats, wreaking havoc in different places and that kind of thing, and playing and that kind of stuff. She said she was walking through the room one day, because she'd never really paid much attention to the game. And when she walked through, she noticed there was a symbol on the screen. She said, "Pause that game." Paused it. And it was a satanic symbol. It was not a pentagram, it was an upside down. And she right then and there took the game out and got rid of it and sat down and talked with her children about it and the symbolism, and started asking about the game. And she realized that it was glorifying satanic rituals, satanic symbolism, some satanic thought processes. So, like I said, she got rid of the game pretty quickly because of that. And found some other games that her kids could handle that weren't so bad. But after that, she started looking into the games, looking to see what they were promoting, those kind of things. And many times she found they were not good, wholesome ideas. There were some ideations that could create some issues with kids, because let's face it, kids are trying to find their way in the world today. They don't know where they stand. They're looking for approval. They're looking for praise. They're looking for all kinds of things. And they are looking for mentors as well. And that sometimes we forget those kind of things in our daily lives, because our lives have got so busy, I look at it like this. A lot of parents, and I will tell you, as a single parent with my 4 kids, it was difficult to keep up with things that were going on in their lives. But I tried to make sure that the boy that had track, my son that was into football, soccer, those kind of things, that I tried to make sure that I at least got to see 1 or 2 games that they were involved in. My work schedule didn't give me that flexibility, but I made it work as best I could. And sometimes as parents like that, we get so busy and so tired that we think we can't do more, when we really need to take the time to enjoy our children and their activities. And I know for me it was difficult, just being a single parent, doing those kind of things. So, happens, happens to the best of us. We do what we can. And it helps if you have other family members that can step in. Thankfully, Thomas and I were together at that time, and Thomas, because of his schedule with his studies of his PhD, he was able to go to many of these games in the afternoon when I could not. The days where they had games on Saturdays and that kind of thing, I was able to go to. But some of the other games, I just couldn't fit them into my schedule because of the way that things went. And, you know, sometimes stuff like that happens. You do the best you can. This is called periwinkle, so I'm adding the periwinkle in. Switching that out. And I will tell you the first row or two, the first row, I try to make sure I'm going a little bit slower to get that in there. Because I want to make sure, like this did not catch. And that happens sometimes. And I find that lots of times happens because of the red heart. I don't know if it's that is a normal thing or not with this red heart yarn, but it seems to be. So many times I've got to force it to catch that first row. And sometimes you have to do that with these knitting machines. They can be somewhat stubborn. And sometimes they just don't like the yarn you're using. So you've got to go to a separate, different color. Luckily, it's now starting to run correctly, so. No drop stitches, thankfully. Drop stitches are a pain in the butt, to be honest, to pick them up on a knitting machine, but sometimes you have to do it. But yeah, I think if you have family members that can step up where you are not able to because of work obligations or whatever, that's a good thing. Use those. Use your family to help you take care of your children, your grandchildren. Your grandparents, and you can step up, step up. I know my grandchildren were not in the area where I lived, but I do know that when I went back to visit, I made sure that, you know, the babysitter had a little vacation for my grandbabies so I could get as much time with my grandbabies as possible. So, you know, those kind of things are important to consider when we're raising our babies and grandbabies, that kind of thing. I haven't heard any more about the thing that's going on with this baby Emmanuel. I saw a video last night that where folks say that Jake had thrown the garbage bag over the side of the hill. Some folks had gone into that area looking, and they did find some bones and a horrid smell. But here's my problem with that. When people go on their own and do these things, if it were actually the crime scene, if they've contaminated the crime scene, it would have been better if they'd found the garbage and just notified the police of what they found, where they were at. With phones nowadays, you can give a complete location of where you're at, using latitude and longitude on your phones, those kind of things. So, you know, these nowadays people think they're helping, but sometimes they don't help the case, because that may be a good excuse for letting these guys off on what they may have done to their baby. There is a theory that they believe the baby was abused for many weeks prior to this, and that both parents were aware of it. The mother was aware, and they do believe that Jake is the actual one that did kill, even though Rebecca is the one that received the majority of the charges. So who knows what's going on there. I think I told you yesterday about having to go in and find the stuff, and I thought I had found where the Centros were that had all the other tools, attachments, that kind of thing were. They were in a different tote. So I had to go in and relabel those totes, so at least I know where things are. Now, when I do make these hats, and I do make them for different sizes, I do have some of the, they're the Dollar Tree large, I think they call them laundry bags. They're the clear plastic ones that are, you know, large, extra large, and that kind of thing. I have on them labeled, you know, the age group. So when I finish a hat, normally I take and put those hats in that, so I know the size that I've got completed. That just helps me keep track of things, and that's basically what I'm doing when I do that, is wanting to keep track of things and make sure the same hats go with the same hat, that kind of thing. I did not find the needles that went with the Addi or even my Centros. So I don't know what I did with those. Put them someplace safe, I'm sure. You know how that goes. But, yeah, it just... Sometimes I wonder what I was thinking when I was packing these things. Because as you know, when I moved in, I unpacked a lot of things. And then when I decided to sell the house, packed a lot of those things back up and just did not label them well like I normally do. Like I've always done in the past when we moved, I would label things like, if it came out of the living room, it would be a living room box 1 and kind of a rough estimate of what was in the box. I didn't do that this time, so. So when and if this house sells and I move, it's going to be an interesting process. Kind of like starting all over again. And that'll be fun. I did have a couple of you ask me about when I did take this off the loom, off the knitting machine, that I did stretch it. Lots of times that is to help the stitches form and bond a little bit better. Sometimes if you have some uneven spots, it'll help even that out. That is primarily why I do that. And because everybody else does it. Sometimes you gotta do what everybody else does. And if you have not been aware, there are a lot of things you can do with the with these circular knitting machines, whether it's a Centro, a Jammet, some of the other names they have for them, the Addis. There are a lot of things you can make with them, you know, anywhere from scarves to knitted blankets to amigurumi. Some of the amigurumi I have seen is absolutely amazing. So, and there's a lot of YouTube tutorials out there nowadays. And of course, there's one or two gals that I watch on TikTok as they are working through. They do some lives while they're working on them. So it's kind of interesting to see that as it goes. I'm going to pause you for a minute. Okay, had a little bit of a sneezing fit. I have probably another 25 rows to go before this one's ready to come off the knitting machine. As you can see, even hand cranking, these go by pretty quickly. So if you were to sit here and do this for a majority of the day, you'd be able to get a lot done. And that is my goal over the next couple of weeks. Let's get a lot of these cranked out. I was listening to Chad Prather, and he was talking about how we have weaponized children with a lot of lies that are going out there, both left and right, to be honest. And we need to be aware of those and make sure that we address those issues with our children. He used the example with the this young trans fellow that had shot up the kids in Minneapolis. He used that as an example, some of the lies that were fed to this child, and so I think we need to be careful about those. There is a part of Robert manifesto where he talks about wanting to get away from being trans, that it was one of the biggest mistakes in his life. He fell for all of the lies, that kind of thing, and that he was used in many respects. But then, as the video goes on, he talks about the wanting to hurt children. So this is a condition of the heart. And I think sometimes we promote those kind of things because of our ideologies. I'll give you an example. The ideology that the child is not worth anything comes from a lot of the folks on the left while they are promoting abortion. Now, I don't think that was their intent, but that kind of is what the message comes across to many people. If you have ever talked with young women, young girls who have had abortions and then regretted them later, they'll be honest with you about those kind of things in their discussion about the guilt, the shame that they felt around that. So we need to learn not to discount those feelings and some of the things that they're talking about they're going through. This is a valid representation of what they feel, as that they were victimized into doing an abortion. And when they talk about it, many times they discuss how they were convinced that the child had no worth at all. And because it wasn't a child, it was just a clump of cells. And that they realized after the abortion, this clump of cells had the potential of being a great human being. And so, you know, there's a lot of hurt that goes on with abortion. There are a lot of folks that unfortunately, because of medical reasons, have to have an abortion. And it is oftentimes very difficult for them to deal with. But at the same time, it's giving a message to other children that that life was not worth it. Which is sad. Now, I do think it's interesting that we are seeing so many abortion clinics closed down because of lack of funding. They will tell you it's because of lack of funding for health services they provide. But if they are providing the health services that they say they are besides abortion, they certainly are awarded grants. Now, they don't get the automatic, was it, 500 billion or million each year that in the past our government leaders have just blindly given to them. They no longer qualify for that, which for me as a taxpayer, I'm glad. I don't want my taxpayers going for that. I don't mind my taxes going for actual, you know, mammograms, STD testing, those kind of things. But there were a lot of other facilities that offer that without the abortion side of it. And I don't know of any abortion clinic that gives an abortion away free. Person that seeks an abortion still has to come up with anywhere from $125 to, what is it, $1,500, depending on the stage that they're at for their abortion. So, you know, and I don't know how these abortion clinics do their paperwork for getting these funds. I'm sure that there's some way that they are using it, but I also think that a lot of these CEOs or heads, maybe they shouldn't be receiving $500,000 or whatever for running that that entity. But I think that of all entities, whether they're private or public, you know, I don't know why they can't just live off $100,000 a year like the rest of us. And I don't make $100,000, but you know, supposedly that's the median that our government has determined for a median for the middle earners. Do I think it's a lot less than that? Oh yeah. I think in many cases it's probably under $30,000 a year that the majority of people make in the U.S. And I think CEOs reap the benefits of having us as their slaves. So, those are my thoughts on that. What are yours? I saw a video that kind of made me giggle. It was a gentleman that was putting on a hard hat, and he was singing about the boss said that we had to do something. And he said, but the we doesn't mean we. It actually means me. I have to do something, while the boss sits back and drinks his cup of coffee. And I thought, how many times have I seen that? And that is absolutely true. That's what we see a lot of. Or I had a nurse friend that used to walk around with a coffee cup in his hand so that it looked like he was busy. So people would leave him alone, and it worked. people left him alone. They wouldn't bother him while he was doing things because he was busy. And what he was doing must have been important because he was walking around like he had something important to do. So yeah, I do see a lot of that. I think we need to be a little more mindful, and I think we probably need to come at these organizations that do charge extra, give these CEOs large salaries. I don't see the big work that these CEOs do. But then again, I've never been a CEO other than of my own company. And I got to tell you, I don't have minions to do the work. I have to do the work myself, so maybe they deserve that kind of pay for the smartness they have. But then again, it's like told you the issue that I have with Etsy and the amount that they charge for a lot of things. And it's frustrating. So yeah, I'm looking for other avenues. And even using PayPal, if you're honest and you list yourself as a business, that eats away at a lot of your income as well. So they do charge you a higher fee for transactions when you sell through PayPal, but it's really not that bad. It's nothing compared to what Etsy does. I mean, Etsy takes 6.5% of every... Sorry about that. Battery died. I changed battery. But I don't even know where I was at, what I was talking about. Guess I should have reviewed what I had. Anyway, I just think sometimes the what they call the medium average wage is less than what normal folks actually make. I think they're very misguided on that number and probably should change it downward. I also think that these CEOs, I don't think that we're getting our money's worth out of them. I mean, it's kind of like the thing with, I don't know how many people just started to notice that Walmart has ripped off the bottom part of the tag when you're buying clothes that tells you how much the clothes are. They have now removed that, and they expect you to either use the app, scan it online to see what the actual price is so that they can change it at will. And of course, throughout the stores, they've already added in those, I call them electronic price tags on the shelves so that they can change them at will in the store. That kind of thing. I was on a group where someone was discussing that the price of coffee, how high it's gotten, and it's all because of tariffs, that kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, but the tariffs just started. That shouldn't affect the prices yet on the shelves. But for some reason it is. It should not. We haven't reached that point where it should. That should happen within probably 6 weeks of the tariffs, which would make it mid-September for that to happen. But we're seeing it already, so that I think is corporate greed, to be honest. And I had someone say that we get the majority of our coffee from Bolivia, which That's not true. The top 3 countries that provide coffee are Brazil, Vietnam, and Switzerland. We get the majority of our coffee from Switzerland, Vietnam, and Brazil. Brazil's tariff for coffee, some of the other goods are 50%, but for the coffee, the tariff is 39%, which is basically what it's been all along for all these years. So, and that has been on hold since August 9th while they are trying to work out some kind of reciprocal tariff. They do charge us, they don't charge us anything over, what did I read? Most of our items that we send over there are 99% of them are duty-free that we send over there, which means they don't charge tariff for that, which, isn't a bad thing. But when it comes to cattle and beef that we send over there, they charge, 63% tariff on that. So that was the impetus behind changing that, so it would lower that fee. I don't know if it will or not. But like I said, a lot of those tariffs are on hold and have been on hold with these countries while they work to get a tariff deal, basically. Now, Switzerland, I think the tariff rate on that is 69. No, 39, I think, was their tariff rate, which really isn't such a bad rate, to be honest. But, and that's for the coffee, so you can't explain some of the coffee prices away because of tariffs. It just does not match up if you actually look into it and do the research. It just doesn't hold water, But people go with what they hear and they just don't bother to check it out and see some of the things that are done. Vietnam has a great deal with tariffs. But like I said, the top 3 coffee producers are actually Switzerland, Brazil, and Vietnam. And that is where we get the majority of our coffee from in the U.S. Now, granted, Hawaii does have coffee that they do sell, but that is actually decreasing. So, of course, that's where that lovely Kona coffee comes in, that a lot of people love because lava is makes a great soil for creating a beautiful flavor when it comes to coffee. So, and that was the whole idea behind the tariffs, to make it a little fairer for U.S. producers who actually do send items into these different countries. It was to be a little bit fairer for them, less restrictive for us, and we've seen some of that happen. We've seen other countries be kind of stubborn and obstinate about it, which, is their prerogative. But it was actually meant to help our country with those people who produce goods and send them into other countries. And of course, the benefit is tariffs have brought a lot of income to help pay the debt down, so that's a good thing. Now, this is a hat that would go for a teen. As you can see, did change the brim up a little bit, but these hats that go into the teen boxes, generally what I call teen boxes, are you know, I take these and I put those hats in there for the teens so that I can take them in when I take them to church for the packing party. Generally, I'll fill a box that says teen 10 to 14 that just has hats that are made for the 10 to 14. As you can see, my 5 to 9 is a lot more filled with hats, so probably need to concentrate on the younger age. And this is a hat that would go for the 5 to 9-year-old. So, and my younger ones, 2 to 4, is kind of slim pickings, so I need to work a little bit on that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing today. I do go see the eye doctor again this afternoon, and hopefully I'll get set free from him and the fees I have to pay, because it's a hefty fee each time. So, because he is a specialist. So, anyway, I'm gonna let you go. I will talk with you later. Everybody, have a great day, and yeah, try to do something kind for somebody else today. See ya.